Thank you. So nice to meet you all. So let's start. So first, I will introduce myself. So my name is Seba Hofer. I work for Accenture and I'm a cyber risk consultant. So basically, I'm doing this presentation to give a quick overview of the work we do in my team. So how it's gonna go is that first I will talk a bit about what is cyber risk management, because I don't know how many people here are in cybersecurity, so just to give an overview. Then I will introduce EBIOS Risk Manager methodology, which is the methodology that we use to do the risk analysis. And I will go through the different steps through a case study, which will be the case of a company deploying a remote access platform to access the industrial systems in a factory. So first, what is cyber risk management? So basically, right now, almost every organization is relying on IT systems, digital systems, for operations, decision-making, and innovation, which, of course, makes them, makes an exposure to the cyber threats. And so basically, what happens is that there will be cyber incidents, which can have a severe impact on the business, can stop productions, some data leak, impact on cost, reputation, schedule, compliance. So we see these cases every day in the news. And so cyber risk management is basically the activities where we're gonna identify, evaluate, and mitigate these risks. So in the end, it will allow to translate the technical risk into business impact to give to the companies, information to make a decision on how to allow the costs. Because we cannot secure 100% the systems, we need to always balance the security with the risk. And also, cyber risk management is the activity that will allow to anticipate the attacks and not just react to them. A bit more information about EBIOS Risk Manager methodology. So for doing cyber risk management, actually there's a lot of frameworks and methods, there's a lot. And I'm going to talk about this one because that's the one we are using in my team. So it was developed by the French National Cybersecurity Agency. You probably guessed with my accent, I'm French, so that's why I know about it. And basically, it's mainly used in French companies or their partners. So I guess it's probably new for you. It aligns with ISO 275, which is kind of the international standards for risk analysis. And it's following a process that is a top-down approach. We start with the business missions, we're discussing with the business in the first workshop. And progressively, we go into exploring the technical systems and the attack path. So it is also a method where we will assess technical attack paths, basically how an attacker can attack the system. And of course, we'll assess all kind of risks, it can be compliance, technical, and operational. And basically, it's workshop-based, so we put different people around the table, which are the business and the technical teams. So a quick overview on the workshops. The first one is going to be the scope. So here, we involve the business. We discuss what is the scope of the risk analysis. So in this case, the case study I will introduce is about, an application. So in that case, we will understand the scope of the project and identify what is the most important that you want to protect and the feared events. Then in the second workshop, we're gonna discuss the risk origins and the target objectives. identify like what kind of attackers will be interested like in attacking the system and what would be their goal. In the workshop 3, I'd say it's the one I like the most because basically like it's where like we start discussing the high-level risk scenarios, like how can an attacker reach their objectives. So it's a lot of brainstorming and yeah, like I find it quite fun actually. And then the workshop 4, like we dive a bit more into the technical aspect by understanding what are the vulnerabilities, what are the like existing security measures to identify the likelihoods, like what is the probability that this attack path will become real. And finally, in the workshop 5, we do the risk treatment. So basically, like we propose mitigation to lower the risks. So here, like we're gonna go like through a quick case study. So it is Ice Cream Corp. It's a company that produces ice cream. They have lots of factories. And they want to deploy a remote access platform to allow the external suppliers that are doing maintenance on like on the industrial systems in the factory to access to it remotely. So now we start with the first workshop. We're gonna understand what is this project is about. So here, like there's the description. So basically, like this company, Ice Cream Corp, is developing a platform to allow the external suppliers who's gonna do the maintenance on the machines in factories to access it remotely on the internet. And so like the goal is really like here for this project to save time and money because right now the external suppliers are flying. Every time there's a problem, they fly them so they can fix the machine, do maintenance. And so like, yeah, it costs lots of money and it's also lots of time because it takes time for them to arrive. And with this project, like the business hopes to save money and time. So basically, like to not fly any more people, and also like to basically like be able to repair, do the maintenance more quickly, to not lose time on the production. So it's gonna be used by about 1,000 external suppliers and 30 internal users, and the scope of deployment is the factories in Europe. So here, like, we have a bit more technical information about how this solution looks like. So basically here, we have the people that's gonna connect to it. So external suppliers, internal users, they're gonna go like through a web interface. They have access through MFA. Then they're gonna go like through this application, which is a SaaS platform that will provide privileged access like to the OT systems that are here. Then we have other things here, like we have a CMDB for the industrial systems. We have a SIEM that is monitoring this REX application. We have the firewalls that protects the industrial assets. We have an email service that basically like will send emails to the suppliers like to tell them they got access. And we have an on-prem server that is recording some videos because basically like every time an external supplier is doing maintenance, the whole session is recorded and stored for future investigation. So here like some information about actually what kind of systems we have in the factory and what would be the impact in case of cyber attack. So the first one here, like it's mixing, formulation, and blending systems. So basically, it is machines that's gonna combine all the raw ingredients to make ice cream. And so here, like the risk is that if like there is like some kind of like if this machine is compromised, basically an attacker can alter the formulation of the ice cream. So we would have just a disgusting ice cream, which is gonna be very bad. Or leak like some information, like the secret recipe of some special ice cream. The second one here is about the pasteurization. So basically, it's heating the mix to kill the microbes. And so, like, the risk is that basically an attacker like could play with the temperature to make it unsafe. So there could be a huge risk on the end customer, like who can get sick like by eating this ice cream. And then the third one here, like it's basically like a system that's gonna basically like convert the mix into frozen ice cream. And so if it is compromised, it's gonna have effect on the quality of the ice cream as well. So basically here, like what we see is that, like on these examples, because there are way more machines like in that factory, like we have two that can have an impact on the quality of the ice cream, which in the end, like the customers will not be happy. It can have impact on the reputation, costs, and everything. And one that is way more serious because it can have a health impact. And so we get like to basically this step that is very important in the workshop one is to identify the business assets and the feared events. So business assets are what we really care about in this system, what we want to protect. There's two things. There is like first the remote access service by itself that we want to have a high availability because like basically it's supposed to save time. And the industrial systems by themselves. And so here, like the feared events, it's basically like asking the question to the business. So basically, what would be the impact for you if the availability, integrity, or confidentiality are compromised? And the impact severity, here we have a scale. For example, it's from 1 to 4. Like 1 low, 4 it's very strong. So when we do this exercise with the client, usually they give very detailed answer, like with numbers in terms of cost and stuff like this. Here, like it's just an example. So here, like the remote access service, the availability is going to be strong because it will have an impact on schedule and cost. Integrity is basically like if the configuration is compromised, it's going to be the same impact of the availability because the system will be down. And confidentiality, there's nothing to steal, no information in this remote access service by itself, so it's non-applicable. Then the industrial systems, availability is strong because, like the business said, like maximum, like the maximum that they can is 3 hours. Like it should be up after 3 hours. Integrity is very strong because, like we saw, like if it's compromised, there can be this health safety of customers. Is strong on the schedule and costs and strong on the reputation because like if the ice cream is not good, the customer will complain and it's not good for the brand. And confidentiality, like we have some intellectual property there, like the ice cream recipe and some other things that they can be stolen. And so now, like we're gonna go through the workshop 2, which is like to identify the risk origins and target objective. So in terms of risk origins, we usually have 2 big categories, the external attackers and the internal one. External attackers, like it can be state-related, organized crime, like these organizations usually like do cyber attacks when we pay them to do it. Competitors, which usually like they don't really, let's say, these guys not gonna do the cyber attacks by themselves. They're gonna hire these guys to do it. And then we have the like more internal here. So the Avenger is an attacker with privileged rights. Usually it's an administrator, either internal or a trusted supplier. And the pathological attacker, it's somebody like regular user. Like they have access to the system with regular rights. They are not administrators. And so for our particular study, we're going to choose these 3 here. So organized crime as external attacker, malicious administrator, which is going to be the administrator of the solution. We're going to study like how they can compromise the solution. And the external suppliers, which are very important here because there are 1,000. It's like a huge risk exposure. And about the target objectives, basically like there are 3 we identified: to disrupt the production in the factories, And so the severity is going to be strong. So the severity of the target objective comes from the business assets impact, the feared events. To modify the ice cream process to make it improper to consumption, this one, the severity is very strong. And then to gain access to ice cream confidential information, this is going to be strong. And so now we're going to go to the workshop 3. So basically in this workshop 3, the exercise is to actually study the attack path for each of the couples. So risk origin and target objective, we're going to go deeper into that. And so because we don't have so much time, I'm just going to do it for two couples, to give an example. And so it's the same here, the severity comes from the feared events, so it's the impact. So usually we like to do it with the clients in a visual way, because we find, it's more interactive. So basically this one, this strategic scenario, it's the organized crime that wants to modify the ice cream process to make it improper to consumption. So they want to go here. And so the goal of the scenario, when we make the workshop to with the client, is really to brainstorm and to identify the different attack paths. So here, as an example, for example, they can go through the maintenance supplier by compromising their laptop to get a legitimate access to remote access service and then to the industrial systems, or they can directly exploit a vulnerability in this SaaS application. And so is this second strategic scenario. So it's going to be the external supplier that wants to disrupt the production in the factories. So again, we can identify two attack paths. They're going to do it directly, through the legitimate access that they have. So basically, our supplier has directly access to a machine. He's supposed to do maintenance, but he decides that it's more fun to modify the recipe of the ice cream, or to make the system break. And the other attack path here is basically they're going to try to ask access to a different industrial system than the one that the company requests them to maintain. And so they're going to try to trick this administrator here that approves the access. And so now, we're going to dive deeper. We're going to go to the workshop 4, which is basically here, what we're going to do is that to identify what are the existing mitigations that we have, the vulnerabilities that we have, to determine the likelihood that this scenario happens. So basically, it's the probability that this happens, and it is directly linked about, it is really linked to what do we have in place and what are the vulnerabilities. The ratio will determine how likely the scenario is to happen. So this one, it is organized crime that's gonna compromise the maintenance supplier laptop to get a legitimate access to the system. So what we have in place here is that the Ice Cream Corp, they made sure that the supplier laptop have some protection, antivirus and endpoint protection. There is MFA and role-based access to the Rex platform. MFA is interesting because basically, if somebody else try to connect, they have the password, the external supplier still has to approve the access. So basically, it's some kind of protection. But if the attacker already compromised the laptop, they can just wait that the maintenance supplier connects through legitimate access. And then they already have access. So if they have access to the laptop, they can manipulate the legitimate access. And also they made sure that the suppliers actually had some security training about phishing risk. Phishing is one of the main ways to compromise the laptop. But the vulnerabilities is that still Ice Cream Corp doesn't have really like, let's say, they don't manage the security of these laptops that the suppliers are using, so they can't really be sure that like they are good, like nothing will happen. And also like they cannot really identify if there are some softwares on the supplier laptop that are unpatched, and that could be like a way like for an external attacker to get access. And so because of this, we're gonna determine that the likelihood of this scenario is 3. Then we go to the next one, is basically like for the external attacker to directly like compromise the SaaS platform. And so here, like for Ice Cream Corp, is really to check like, do they make sure that the Rex company is securing their application? So basically, like what they did here is that they receive evidence that Rex company is doing secure development and vulnerability management on the Rex application. And also, like, they are asking them to do a yearly pen test and to get the reports. So basically, like, they have a pretty good overview of the security of that application. But they didn't do yet a pen test on their own setup, like to verify that, like, the way they are using this REST application, effectively, there's no way, like, to go through it. So basically here, we put the likelihood that's possible. And then now we are on the scenario of the maintenance supplier. So the first one is that they're gonna abuse their legitimate access to commit a bad action. So the existing mitigations here is that so every session is recorded. So there is a record of every session. But the problem is that recording is good because they can probably identify, but it doesn't prevent somebody to do a bad action. So basically, like, what can happen in this case is that they will be only able to investigate who did it after the fact, but maybe the supplier by then, like, is gone. You know, like like he went, like he got money, like like somebody ordered him like to do this, they paid him, and now he's gone. And then, like, the second existing mitigation is that the maintenance supplier cannot do direct file upload. It's locked, like they can't. The patches, if they need to install some, they are uploaded through another process and verified and everything. So I say, like, this is quite good actually, because that prevents them, like, to upload some files and like we don't know if they're good or not. And the third mitigation is that the remote session is time limited. So every time they have only, let's say, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and then it stops. So that kind of prevent that they have too much time to think about trying everything to commit like a bad action. But the other vulnerabilities is that there's no real-time session monitoring to actually, like, kind of try, like, to catch if there's some abnormal activity. So here, this scenario, we're gonna put it at likely. And the last one that we're gonna study is the maintenance supplier that's gonna request access to a different industrial system than the one he should go to. And so here, like, the existing mitigations is that Ice Cream Corp has thought it well. Like, they kind of pre-mapped the supplier with the industrial systems. So basically, like these suppliers, like, they have some expertise. They can only, like, intervene on some kind of equipment, not the others, so they kind of map them. So basically, like, they cannot, by default, access to everything. And the second mitigation is that the access requests are validated manually by this person here. So, like, every time, like, they check that everything is good and they give them access. But the problems are that there's no regular access reviews of the industrial systems linked to the external supplier profile. And this is important because basically, like, things change with time, and it is standard good security practice to check that people have only the access they need to do the work, like at a regular practice. And the second vulnerability is that, unfortunately, for now, the manual validation process is not very defined. So they're supposed to use ticketing, but sometimes they don't. And sometimes, they contact each other through Teams call, and they bypass this process. So basically here, it's a big vulnerability, because the maintenance supplier can maybe manage to trick this person to validate wrong access. So in the end, at the end of the workshop 4, what we have is the current risk landscape. So we have the severity from the field event, the likelihood through the discussions with the technical teams, and we have the risk level here. So we're able to tell which risk is higher than the other to kind of prioritize, where we put the money for remediation. And so which brings us to the workshop 5, where we're gonna propose mitigations for each of the risks to reduce the likelihood here. So this is really the goal of the risk analysis, is to come to this stage. So here, we go back to each of the scenarios we have seen before. So here, the organized crime that's gonna compromise the maintenance supplier laptop. So basically, what we propose is that they enforce the supplier device posture assessment and compliance checks before access. So basically, they install some kind of software on supplier laptops that's gonna check that patches are installed and this kind of thing to have a better security. Then the next one is to exploit a vulnerability in the REX application. So they didn't do a pen test yet on their setup. They're gonna do it, we propose them to do it to reduce the likelihood. So then it's gonna be unlikely. We're gonna be sure that it's good. Then is the maintenance supplier that abuses their legitimate access to do a bad action. So here, what they propose them is to actually identify the most critical industrial systems. And for this one, to implement a 4I principle. So basically, the goal is that every time a supplier will connect to that industrial system, basically, there's an employee of Ice Cream Corp that connects at the same time and checks what they are doing, either through the remote access platform or physically in the factory. They go near the machine and check that nothing wrong is happening. So this will really reduce the likelihood actually to unlikely, and also to enable the real-time session monitoring to kind of analyze in real time if some actions look a bit weird. And the last one is basically the maintenance supplier that requests access to a different industrial system than the one that he should be accessing. So basically, it's just to conduct regular supplier access reviews and basically to really formalize their process, that it's written how they should access and to enforce the ticketing. Which, as a conclusion, will bring us to the risk heat map. So this is before mitigations. Usually when we have risk here, we want to reduce them by proposing mitigations, which we did here. So it can happen that in some projects, before mitigations, we have some risk in the, let's say, green zone. So this risk, because, basically, it's going to be low likelihood or low impact, we accept them. So the goal of the risk analysis is to really focus on the risks that are, let's say, the most important, and to propose mitigations. And so, as a conclusion, this method is really to connect the business missions, the technical realities, and the threat behavior in one structured process. And so what we like about it is that it's really through collaborative workshops. We put decision makers, solution architects, and the cybersecurity experts together, and we brainstorm on this risk attack path. And also what I like about it is that it's really, let's say, yeah, makes it a bit more interactive. Like when we have a visual, when we can present something like with the attack path and kind of discuss around it, like we feel that the teams are getting more engaged, like interacting more. And also, it really like bridges the business and the technical worlds, because like we see sometimes like solution architects are not really aware of like the impacts that the cyber risk can have on the business. And so like through this process, it really like sensitizes them like to cybersecurity and also like to the impact on the threats. So it's done. So do you have any questions?
I see there are some questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can read it here. So the first one is, like from your experience, how to first this owner to implement security measures to lower the risk?
I'd say like it is typically the goal of this exercise actually is basically by showing them this. Like this is what you have now. This is like what can happen if you implement the security that we propose. So basically, like I'd say, like is the whole risk analysis exercise. Like the goal is really like to convince the business that the security mitigations are important to implement because we link like the technical vulnerabilities to the impact that they can have, like impact on cost, compliance, schedule, production. I say for this one, it's really all about like the workshop one, the scope, and to really focus on that part on the business assets and the field events. So usually, like this data, like it comes from the business impact assessment. So to have some kind of, let's say, a more impactful risk analysis and more, let's say, relevant, like the goal is really to focus on the areas of risks that have the highest impact. So if we see in the business impact assessment that the business says like the availability of this solution is very critical for me, or the information hosted is very critical, we absolutely know that we have to focus on assessing the attack path and security controls that are in place to protect the availability or the confidentiality. And we're gonna spend more time on this. So I have to say about this one, like if the person who asked the question can give more details, yeah. I'd say like I just want to understand, like, are you? Of course, like we rely on our own experience, but I'd say, like, I mean, in this specific case, I'd say, like, when we assess the risk around a new application, basically, like, the data that we have in entry is the architecture documents, like basically a huge document, 150 pages, that describe everything about like technical details of the document and the business impact assessment. So basically, like, we really, like, I'd say, like, the most important actually for us is really like, yeah, I'd say like that workshop one, to really understand the scope and what is the most important about the impacts that that could be like on this application, like around availability, integrity, and confidentiality. Because yeah, like the goal is to really link, let's say, the findings of the risk analysis on what the business will really care about, to give them an overview on where they should invest the money. I don't know if I answered to your question, or otherwise you can ask more details. I'd say like I don't have the exact case in mind, so I can't really reply to this, but I can just say they should have done a risk analysis. Like, I mean, I'd say like it's standard in the like security frameworks that risk assessments happen once a year, like regular risk assessments, to identify like where there are some vulnerabilities and to put action plans. So I'd say, yeah, they should have done a better risk assessment. I'd say like for like on this particular project my team is working on, we use this one. Yeah, so that's the one I presented. But as I said, like there's a lot of different risk analysis out there, so